Get $3 off every order at PlayAsia by using the code CENSORED.
4Kids is a name that no kid from the 90s or noughties could avoid. The US production company was responsible for bringing countless hit anime shows into the English market, including Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, One Piece, and Sonic X. At the turn of the millennium, 4Kids were king. Riding high from the success of shows like Pokemon, they were named by Fortune magazine as America's #1 fastest growing company. However, jumping ahead to 2007, major fall in profits saw the company placed on the FSB 100 Hall of Shame. Quite a difference from their triumphant rule a few years earlier. 4Kids' rise and fall is iconic in the world of anime, and their failings can be attributed to a combination of poor business decisions, bad luck, and even a serious case of financial fraud. To properly go into what happened though, and why exactly we don't hear from 4Kids anymore, we're gonna have to go back to the lovable world of Pokemon, which 4Kids obtained the license for starting from the first episode in 1998. As I'm sure you're all aware, to call Pokemon a success would be an understatement. The company struck gold with their licensing deal, which saw them produce all English versions of the anime and movies. Prior to this, one of their most successful shows was WMAC Masters, which was a live-action martial arts series hosted by Bruce Lee's daughter Shannon Lee. 2 seasons and 26 episodes were produced before the show was cancelled due to low ratings and low sales of the action figures. With Pokemon, however, the production company saw more success than they could have ever imagined, and this helped pave the way for 4Kids to acquire the licenses for more and more Japanese anime, which they then adapted for English markets. This adaptation process was something that was very controversial with fans familiar with the original material, with 4Kids being notorious for their heavy editing of Japanese shows to remove not just anything that could be seen as offensive, but also the removal of most uses of text, as well as the alteration of Japanese themes to more Western ideals. Other common 4Kids edits include toning down the use of weapons such as guns and blades, the removal of blood and other scenes of violence, toning down suggestive content such as popular character designs, plus anything else that could be seen as going against their family-friendly principles. However, whilst not winning them any favours with their older audiences, this strict editing of original material isn't the reason for their downfall. You see, the company's troubles all began in early 2006, and once again involves the Pokemon franchise. Now, at this point in time, Pokemon was actually starting to decrease in popularity in the United States, and so Pokemon USA began looking for ways to cut costs. This led to 4Kids being let go when their contract expired at the end of Season 8. I also saw many of the original Pokemon voice actors being recast. With 4Kids losing their flagship series, profits were naturally going to take a hit, and 2 years later we're right back at the FSB 100 Hall of Shame. This was followed a month later with 4Kids announcing that they will be laying off 15% of their workforce, in addition to the early termination of their Fox programming agreement, as well as various other reductions in operating expenses. The company was hemorrhaging money, and whilst they tried their best to adapt and continue, their situation proceeded to get worse, and in 2010 they were delisted from the New York Stock Exchange. This financial hell could be the reason why 4Kids were then found to have committed multiple acts of fraud in relation to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise and sued for $5 million. An audit showed that 4Kids had made various secret licensing deals which they then made large amounts of money on, but didn't disclose or give any of this profit to the original Japanese creators. This saw them have their Yu-Gi-Oh! Contract terminated, which at the time was their largest franchise, and they were forced to pay up. Then only a few weeks later, 4Kids announced that they had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in an attempt to reorganize the business and pay their debts. The 4Kids then set out to sell their assets, which saw the emergence of 2 companies, Saban Entertainment's Kidsco and Konami's 4K acquisition. The 2 companies started a bidding process on 4Kids licenses, and on June 26, 2012, a decision was finalized which saw their assets split between the 2 companies in a deal worth $15 million. Through the deal, Konami gained the US rights to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime franchise as well as all of 4Kids' other Yu-Gi-Oh! Assets. Saban, on the other hand, acquired the agreements for Dragon Ball Z Kai, Sonic X and Cubix, plus CW Network's Saturday morning programming block. Following the deal, 4Kids were able to pay off their debts and come out of bankruptcy. However, with now most of their licenses gone, it wasn't going to be easy for them to become successful again, and they needed to make some big changes. And so, changing their name to 4 Licensing Corporation, the company unveiled their new business venture to the world.
It is called ISO Blocks, and it is built for youth. Softball players, baseball players, pitchers specifically. And while the company is working out the kinks to get major leaguers on board, finding a style that everybody can wear here in the big leagues, Alex is putting his name right now behind the youth. And you can buy this product at Dick's Sporting Goods on their website as well. It is merely $60. Just that will protect yourself from brain injury. Now, here's more from Alex on becoming part of this evolution to get big leaguers to wear a headpiece like this, but starting now, in the meantime, protecting our youth.
Unfortunately for 4 licensing, ISO blocks didn't take off like they hoped. The next few years saw 4 licensing fall on harder times than ever, and just last year they have now yet again filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This time though will likely be the last time, with their press statement explaining that management does not currently anticipate any recovery for shareholders. 4Kids editing practices are something that left a sour taste for many fans, and for those of you who weren't aware of what happened to them and why we don't hear from 4Kids anymore, there it is. That's how this once highly successful company came to an end. Until next time, thank you for watching.